OBS is doing fine. And it looks like YouTube is picking us up. Excellent.
Choo, choo, choo.
There we go. We are now live. There should be people flowing in just a moment. Hello and welcome to Gilmore's Glorious Gossip, a show dedicated to Critical Role over on the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel. Welcome to everyone joining us live. Glad you could be here for the conversation. For those of you watching us on YouTube, don't worry. The conversation is still continuing. You can make sure that you're heard down in the comments below, and we will do our best to answer. And hey, maybe your comment will be picked up for our comments from last Gilmore's Glorious Gossip. Which, as a behind-the-scenes note, I forgot to put into the notes, so I'm having to pull it up real quick while I'm going through the intro. Oops. That's okay.
That's fine.
Yep. As always, we are posting this on Monday, so if you have real-life issues you need to attend to, it will be available later. You can come back. We'll still be here waiting for you. Many thanks again to Akuma Mika at EmmaFrost91 for our logo. This week features 5 more amazing artists. The piece you are seeing now is by Hugo Cardenas.
Cardenas, yes.
If I could ever, learn to speak English and not Draconic, it would be great. You can find the artist at Takayuki Art. That's TAKAYUUKI_art over on Twitter. Later, you'll be seeing pieces by our very own Jess at Jessie LR Leaf. A piece by Delta at _Delta Rhythm. Izzymatic at Isabel K. Silva on Twitter. And finally, a piece by Chandra Pandita, and I hope I said that correctly, at Photon Betamax, PHOTONBETAMAX. If you'd like your art featured here, please let any of the show's hosts know via Twitter, using our official at Gilmore_Gossip Twitters, or our direct Twitters, or you can contact us via our official Gilmore's Glorious Gossip at gmail.com email address. And currently, finally, but possibly expanding in the future, you can reach out to us on our Tumblr.
Yep, you can Gilmore dash gossip, or Gilmore dash gossip is I think that's what it's called. Haven't been on long enough. I'm actually doing live tweets over there. So live sketching for every episode going forward, unless life gets too hectic. But you can come and follow me as I stumble through sketching these crazy voice actors playing D&D.
And just in case you guys are following that particular Tumblr and notice one week that maybe there's not art going up, either Jessica's not doing art that week, or it's being done on our Twitter, or on the official at Gilmore_Gossip Twitter, or on Jessica's thing. We're not going to hold her to forcing her to do it on the Tumblr every week. With that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe down underneath the viewing area, so you can catch us each and every week. I'm Akiva, found on Twitter at AkivaDavid, AKIVADAPHYDD. And joining me today is Jess. So go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know where we can find you.
Hey guys, I'm Jess, or Jessica, or whatever the heck you want to call me. Jessie is fine too. You can find me at Jessie LR Leaf over on Twitter, or you can find me at my Tumblr at Crit Roll Sketch, which I am very active on. Yeah. They're saying in the chat that you labeled the episode 89 and 90.
Well, I will go and fix that. This week, episode 94.
Yep.
There we go. Sorry about mislabeling that, guys. I've been remiss. So, sorry about that. Okay, so that is fixed, and of course will be fixed when the video goes live as well. So, that will bring us to our pre-show announcements. There is a new DM's tip live on the Geek and Sundry YouTube channel, featuring Satine Phoenix as the host. It is excellently done because her first episode, she goes into the different types of DM/GMs. So for those of you that are interested in becoming DMs or are curious to know, what type you might fall under or what other types there may be, it's a very good episode to watch, and Satine is very charismatic. So I think she's going to carry her episodes of DM tips very well.
I noticed they've gotten longer, like especially with hers. They used to be like 5 minute, 6 minute things, and now she's got it at 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I think that really not being held to a short 5 minute little episode will really help that particular series and help DMs that are looking for more information, whether they're just starting out or looking for, DM tips. Help get into the topic a little bit more. Get fleshed out a bit, if you will.
Yep.
If you guys remember from the conversation in the live stream last week, we had talked about an Easter egg in the game Mass Effect Andromeda. Sorry, I'm trying to copy links as I do this. There is, in fact, an NPC called Strogjaw Grog. It was found, or brought to my attention. Whoops. There we go. Brought to my attention by Chris Taylor at PL Topher over on Twitter. And down in the description, as soon as I get it updated, why is my computer going so slow? I don't know. Hopefully you guys can hear us just fine.
I can. My computer's being slow too, so.
Okay. Come on. There we go. There is a link directly to Chris's tweet where he actually captured a screenshot of the Krogan in question. And I think as a Krogan, or the NPC being a Krogan is very fitting for Grog.
Yeah.
Jessica put into the pre-show announcements, there is a new episode of All Work No Play by Liam and Sam that is up on iTunes. I have not yet listened to it, but as always, I am sure it is hilarious.
I mean, I haven't listened to all of them yet, but they're losing things to talk about.
It's not that they're losing things to talk about, it's that they're losing focus.
That's a more accurate.
Yeah, I mean, it started pretty focused on telling stories and reminding themselves to have fun. And now that they're having fun pretty much on a weekly basis, and getting paid for it, by the way, which is just living the dream in my eyes.
Yeah.
They're losing focus on what All Work No Play means to them, and if it's something they want to continue, they'll probably want to refocus. So,
yeah.
A little bit of a spoiler, not really, but next week the episode of Critical Role will be a continuation of Liam's one-shot with Matt and Marisha as players. So next week, no Vox Machina adventure, but we get to see Matt flounder as he has at the end of episode 94. He had mentioned it and was kind of nervous about being a player. Something that we did forget to mention last week.
Yeah.
A lot of people have said that Marisha March was greatly appreciated, and they had a lot of fun. So we're moving to the next cast member this month, and as I said last month, this month is Laura, although it was pointed out to me that Ashley April would work. Kind of felt I dropped the ball on that one, but
Yeah.
Laura is next this month, so make sure that you send shout out and support to Laura for every bit of information. Wow, getting ahead of myself. Every bit of entertainment and light and love that she spreads to us and our community. So we are calling this Apri-Laura. APRI-Laura.
It's apt. I guess.
I thought it fit, but when it was pointed out to me that Ashley April would have fit, I was like, I really dropped the ball. So.
Yep. But anyway, it's still good to go to all of the women of Vox Machina and tell them how great they are
Oh,
and
absolutely.
give them things.
Absolutely.
So don't hesitate on that front.
Absolutely. Just as a reminder, we're doing this month by month, focusing on one cast member. Not to try to single them out for the accolades, but to spread love throughout the community and use it as a reminder that this community is built on love. We're not, you may disagree with their actions and choices, and we're not saying you can't. We're just asking that you approach those disagreements with respect and love in your mind.
Yep.
Because there's a big difference between constructive criticism and just tearing someone down. And we want to encourage constructive criticism. Next up, it appears that Talk Machina has a new email address.
They do. They got their URL.
Yes. So that means I need to contact them again. As the audience is unaware of, I have been trying to get Brian Foster as a guest. Haven't quite gotten a hold of him yet. But it's understandable. They're busy. There's a lot of critters vying for attention. I get that. But if you guys would like to have Brian Foster, come on as a guest, try and point him in our direction, if you wouldn't mind.
Wow, I did not. This is news to me.
Well, yes, we started doing this before you came on board, Jessica.
Oh, okay.
We actually had tried to get him as a guest back in February, but his schedule was, rather busy, and we sort of lost contact. But I will be contacting him again. So if our wonderful viewers would like to assist, send him a tweet. Maybe send the new submit at Talk Machina for your fan art. By the way, perhaps they can assist in putting us back in contact. There's no guarantee he'll be a guest, but every little bit helps. But yes, as they have their own URL now, if you want to submit fan art and gifs to the weekly Talks Machina contest, use submit at talksmachina.com. That sounded very much like a commercial. But that will bring us. Well, before I get into this, there's a little bit of talk about other places where Matt has been a player. Of course, he did the Paranoia game on Geek and Sundry. He has appeared in several other D&D games around the net. One of the notable ones that is bringing, or that was brought up by Anil Nair and John O'Brien. He was on the ItMeJP Twitch channel in a game that was DM'd by Adam Coble. And it was a great game.
Yep. I don't think I've seen that one quite yet.
It's in like 3 or 4 parts on his YouTube channel. So look up ItMeJP on YouTube and go through his video history, and you can find it there.
Will do.
Yeah, but that's going to bring us back to, or not back, but bring us to our comments from last Gilmore's Glorious Gossip. And this one comes from the comic book addict, who sort of clarified where exactly to find Strogjaw Grog. He is a Krogan mercenary that is possibly on the same planet as the Krogan settlement. There's a group of mercenaries in the place called the Flophouse, and the Krogan leader there is named Strogjaw Grog. So, many thanks for that little tidbit. I am definitely going to go looking for him. Computer, why are you so slow? Make sure I'm not dropping frames. Okay, I haven't dropped any frames yet, so, alright.
You are cutting out just a little bit, but that might be on my end only. I don't know.
Well, hopefully, because streaming from my computer, a lot of times you guys will hear errors in the audio that the audience doesn't.
Yeah, probably.
I wish I had restarted my computer before we started the episode, but that's okay. I'm a professional.
We'll power through. We'll get through this.
Yes. So, that will bring us into our Talk Machina moments. Jess, if you would like to take the lead on this, because you have the notes.
Okay. So our guests for, we were discussing episode 93 this week. Our guests were Noelle, Sam, Travis, and Liam O'Brien. And there was a lot of discussion surrounding Noelle's character. And I think I'll just go through. Do you want me to just go through all of that real quick? Because most of it can just be globbed together, I think.
That's up to you. As the audience knows, we try to shoot for about 2 hours, and we're only talking about one episode today, so we have time. Finally, we're not rushed.
Yep. So when asked about how Noelle got into D&D, she said that she'd done it before, and she was a teenage warlock named Jericho. And there was a lot of discussion surrounding that and her character, Jericho, and how she was in a Breakfast Club-esque kind of setting, which is really intriguing, and everybody got into that. And she said she wanted to have a deviation from Warlock going into this particular D&D session with Critical Role, so that's why Matt suggested the Blood Hunter class for her. And she said that she liked her characters extra, so she decided to go with a werebear just to make things fun.
And it was a hit. It really was. I would love to see Noelle come back with that character.
She did mention that. She'd probably want to return the ring back to everybody. She's just that kind of a person who doesn't leave loose threads like that if she survives hell.
Yeah, and hopefully with the ring of invisibility, she'll be she'll be okay.
Hopefully. It's all up to Matt, really.
Yeah, in the end.
She also said that Matt was the one who actually created Tova's backstory.
Why she was where she was.
And so Noelle was saying that her friends Bellany and Talon were the ones with her, and Bellany was the one who sold his soul, and they were trying to kill the devil that he had sold it to.
Nice.
And he was actually the one who got Tova to be a blood hunter, so she's super loyal to him and was partially the reason why she was very, very into staying in hell.
Yeah, honestly, her staying was a little bit of a surprise. Because, I mean, honestly, who wants to stay in hell? But, good reasoning for it.
Yep. Then we've got. Oh, there was also one point where Tova, Noelle said that if Travis had asked, she would have probably had Tova bite Grog for the lichen curse to be imparted upon him. Had he just asked, so he was very upset that he didn't get the chance to.
Well, we can't have everything. But that's okay.
Yep. They discussed the moment when Keyleth obviously had a chance to live or die, 50-50 chance. And they talked about how the cast only realized afterwards how badly things could have gone, that the lead up to the role was the worst part of that entire situation.
Absolutely. Matt would have had to pull some Deus Ex Machina to try and save that, or
Yeah.
or let it go to a TPK. But thankfully, that didn't happen.
The Liam and Travis were actually talking about what would have happened had Keyleth gone down, and Travis straight up said he would have pulled the cards. He would have pulled from the deck of many things. And it's like, well, we're not getting out of this anyway. It's nothing or all or nothing.
Yep.
And before he would have done that, Liam was saying that Percy probably would have invoked the pact with the devil.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that happening. Like, there's going to be a time, especially in this last arc, where Matt's going to make that option real attractive.
Oh, yeah. That's and Taliesin is just the kind of person who would take it. I'm slowly beginning to realize, and I know I should have known it before, but Taliesin has really been pushing his darker side these past couple of weeks. So I'm just beginning to realize how dangerous Taliesin as a person is.
Well, let's remember, one, he's goth, and two, Percy hasn't been pushing it so much, or pushing it more in recent times, so much as had more opportunities to do so. Because every opportunity he's had in the past, he's taken.
That's true.
So.
Travis was also saying that he's enjoying the new fighter level that he's taken with all the action surges, and how he potentially gets to react 6 times. He gets 6 hits within a round.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really mind-blowing to me. I've never gone anywhere near that kind of level before.
Well, 3 attacks as a barbarian, action surge as a fighter. It's a doozy.
Yep.
Um, I like this little note about Tyrion. The,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Uh,
in the
Go ahead.
notes, and in the episode, Sam revealed that Tyrion does things that he thinks brave people would do. Not necessarily that he is brave, but he's trying to emulate someone that he sees as his better, for lack of a better way for me to put it into words.
Yeah.
And when you stop to think about it, that's all anyone really can do when they're trying to better themselves and don't know how to do so.
Yep, that it's true for me. Like I try to emulate other people when I'm talking in public, or I'm trying to put on like a persona when I'm talking to other people. It's a lot of people do it, so there's nothing really to be ashamed of for doing that kind of things. And it's not a bad thing that you're showing fear or showing your true um, feelings when you go into it. It's all a learning experience.
Absolutely. A lot of people assume that bravery is not being afraid, and that's not true. Bravery is
Nope.
being afraid and doing it anyway. Eh,
Yep.
So, it's little things like that that are slowly making Tyrion more personable.
He is becoming such a fleshed out character, and I'm really excited to see more of what Sam is going to do with him.
And in case Sam Riegel is listening to our podcast, I don't know if he is. I doubt he is, but if word gets to him about this, curse you, Sam Riegel, for making me care about Tyrion more than I already do. I no longer want to see him die.
I don't think a lot of people want to see him die. He's too precious now.
Yes. Especially after this episode.
Oh gosh, this episode. I'm just going to be singing his praises all night long because I absolutely cannot get enough of Terry now.
Um,
Um,
so
so
the next,
Hell didn't live up. Yeah.
I was gonna say, just 2 or 3 more little notes.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Ooh. Uh, Sam did talk a lot about Terry losing Dodie, how it was he's still going through the shock of losing him, and that they'll have to see what happens in the next episode for those emotions to become fully realized. But within the past episode, episode 93, Terry was just trying to deal with that. Um, and yeah, that's about it. Ashley was announced to be coming back, so we have Ashley. Hey.
Can't actually hear me. Oops, sorry about that, guys. I
Oh,
muted my mic
oh,
for a moment.
sorry.
Um, but yeah, so yay, we get Ashley back, and I don't know if I have mentioned this once or twice. Maybe I do have a celebrity crush on Ashley.
I mean, who doesn't? Honestly, Ashley's just. I still have yet to watch Blind Spot, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to become the biggest Ashley fan when I do. So,
Yes.
there was actually also, which is relevant to the upcoming episode, Sam was asked if Terry was a virgin, and he said he wouldn't say, but that it's interesting, and it certainly is.
Absolutely. And we'll get into it in a minute.
Yep.
There was a lot of speculation on that.
There was. I wasn't going to assume going into it. I didn't want to assume what Terry was going into learning more and more about his character. I wasn't going to ask questions. I wasn't going to participate in any kind of fan speculation because I was just going to wait. It's up to them whether or not they want to reveal anything, and I respect their who they are, whatever Sam wanted to do with the characters. So it was a little peeving to see a lot of people like immediately labeling him as something.
True. For a real person, or if someone were trying to do that with the cast itself, that would upset me a lot
Yeah.
more than it does with Tyrion, because Tyrion is a fictional character, um, and as such, a lot of those assumptions and all of that are, in my mind, a little bit of fan fiction. Based
Mm-hmm.
based
Yeah.
because it's all based on fictitious characters. Like, I don't have a problem with people writing fan fiction about Ashley's character on Blind Spot, because again, it's a fictitious character. Now, if they were to do the same, about Ashley herself, or Matt himself, or any of the actual cast members, I stay away from those fan fictions. I do not like them, and personally, I do not condone them, because then you're getting into a person's actual life.
Yeah, I've known a couple people who do that in real life, and that was a journey. Whew.
Yeah, at best, that comes across as creepy stalker.
Yeah, it really is. Don't do that, guys.
So, but I think that's a good place for us to go ahead and segue into episode 94. I don't know why creepy stalker is a good segue, but they're leaving hell, which I'm sure is full of creepy stalkers.
And Percy was kind of emulating his creepy stalkerness in this episode, just a little.
Just a little. Which, yeah, we'll get into.
You'll get into that.
Yes. Okay,
But for now,
so starting at the beginning of episode 94, the party arrives back in Whitestone, having plane shifted, and holy crap. I think it's coming to a point where I'm saying this like every episode, or I may have to go back and check, because I think at this point I've said it about once or twice every episode.
yeah.
Matt, are you sure you're not a writer? Because your descriptions, holy crap, man.
I cannot wait to get my hands on the new or Exandria game he's putting out.
Yeah, when it fully, the campaign setting,
Yep.
once he gets that out, I am going to be devouring that. But yeah, that description of them passing through the divine gate, and this time it being fleshed out more than just the pillar of fire. It talking about going between the holes in the lattice work that the keep the planes separated and all that. Just
And then just the sparks of energy of everybody's being and
everybody's
just
being, yeah. Just
oh,
wow. Matthew Mercer, you really, you, don't get me wrong. Your vocal work is astoundingly amazing, and I'm so glad you get to do your passion. But I think you have a side job here working with wizards if you wish. Because, damn, maybe even a backup profession of, being a professional writer.
yeah. Sorry, I'm reading the comments.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. Um, but yeah, so everybody gets back, and of course, the initial reaction of the entire party is relief that they're back in Whitestone, out of hell. And they start discussing, uh, how much of a relief it is, and then we get into the sadness, almost despair, of Tyrion over his loss of Dodie.
Yeah, I was really happy with Vox Machina for being really understanding about that. They weren't just jerks like they usually are.
Oh yeah. That portion of the conversation very easily could have gone, well, what's the matter, man? He's just a robot. You can build another one. And I'm so glad
Yeah.
they didn't. I you know,
They're learning, they're growing, Akiva.
yes, they are. Vox Machina sits there and says we're all just a bunch of assholes, but no, they're not complete assholes. They are growing as people, and it's awesome.
Very much.
So while that discussion is getting started, Vex pops Trinket out of the necklace and heals him, and we have a hilarious moment because she casts a third level cure wounds on him and rolls 3 1s.
Just immediately sad there. It
Yep.
comes up to her as soon as he realizes there's no danger, like, Mom, heal me. And she tries, but fails so badly. And he's just like, why?
Well, no. To me, it was a yes. Here we go. I'll heal you. And then Trinket just goes, "Really? That's it?"
Yeah,
Like, wow, mom.
sarcastic there. Yep.
Wow, mom. I must mean a whole lot to you. And of course, we get a cute little scene because there's this little 13-year-old boy who saw them come back and sees this bear, and so he gets some love from Trinket. And of course, Keyleth, has to speak up, and it's a hilarious little one-liner. 10 minutes back in Tal'Dorei, and we're already terrorizing people. I'm okay with this.
Yep. Typical Vox Machina. Always have to, whether it be little children, elderly people, shop owners, you got to be terrorizing someone at least once per episode.
Absolutely. Um, Percy, being the closest in background to Tyrion, brings out some alcohol, which of course Tyrion at first thinks is a celebratory drink until it gets explained to
Mm.
him that it's more of an acceptance with a little help, as I believe Keyleth put it.
Yep.
Um, so they have a few drinks for Dodie and get to talk about what Dodie meant to Tyrion, and Grog actually tries to get the name correct.
Mm.
Grog cares.
Yeah. Everybody's starting to really like him, and just the fact that Grog is starting to take a liking to Tyrion is proof.
Yes. But of course, Sam being Sam sort of channels some Scanlan-like creativity, and reads a little bit of some of the dictation that he took, or that Dodie took the night before they left for their journey to Hell. And in it, we get a little glimpse of the way Tyrion thinks. And, Tyrion judges his time with Vox Machina to be worth about 210,000 gold pieces so far. But while at the beginning of the journey, he was considering, after getting back from Hell, breaking off with the group and going and confronting his dad, he decides he's going to stay with Vox Machina.
Yeah.
Which, in its own way, was actually kind of touching.
It was because Vox Machina they have not been the best to Terry. throughout these episodes, and they were really lashing out at Sam for most of it, but Sam was not giving them a lot of reasons to like him.
Yeah.
So just, I think it says a lot about Terry's character, how even though they're treating him like crap, it's a better situation than he was in than with his father. So
Yeah,
that's
and
a little bit heartbreaking at the same time, but also just very, very sweet.
it really is. Of course, Vex being the character she is, she gets sort of hung up on the 210,000 gold pieces.
Yeah. Wasn't
Which,
there also a point when Sam revealed how much money Terry actually had, and Laura snapped out of character and was like, "You only had that much money?"
well, keep in mind, this was during, during this discussion, um, Tyrion gets a little choked up, and Vex does an insight roll to make sure that they're not, as the saying goes, alligator tears. Just something to lure them in, get them more accepting of him, simply so he can further his own goals. Um, Sam sort of misunderstood that and
Mm.
revealed that. So Laura breaks character and is like, "What? You're just about as poor as us?"
Yeah.
So that was, and Marisha just laughed because she was like, and she's so shocked she drops her accent and everything. um, but yes, the there's a little discussion on, because Tyrion has decided to break with his family rather than break with Vox Machina. There's a little discussion on ways that Tyrion can, earn money through tinkering and that sort of thing. Um, and they have a little talk with Tyrion about how they've just gone through not just literal hell, but also the figurative hell previous to that. So they're going to take some time to rest from adventuring.
Yeah.
And to start that off, they decide to make their way uh, to a pub. And
Appropriate.
yes, and as they do, there's a caravan that is loading up, getting ready to set out to Iman, and they come across the former Empress, who's now in farm clothes and is wearing. Uh, it is fitting in a lot better than I thought she would, with being essentially a commoner at this point.
Pretty much. I was really happy to get to see her because Matt or any of the other cast members seemed to have completely forgotten that she was there.
Yeah, and not only that, but it sort of resolves a few loose ends that could have caused snags in the
Yeah.
future of Vox Machina, but they were minor and not something that the party would otherwise address.
Yep.
Um, getting ready, as they're getting ready to, or watching over the caravan getting loaded and everything. Um, she reveals she's going to head back to Iman with her children, who are running around playing with the two ASMR boys that they rescue, that Vox Machina rescue. And the Empress sort of, or the former Empress sort of, doesn't even break stride or think that there's any sort of question about the two ASMR boys going with them,
Pretty much.
which is awesome. Takes that load off, or that guilt or whatever, I guess, off of Vox Machina. And the Empress is, or the Empress really shows herself to be one of the, as Travis puts it, one of those cool moms because one of her,
She is.
yes, she is, one of her daughters has a crush on one of the Asimir, and she's not wanting to break her daughter's heart.
He's so sweet.
Um, so they wrap up that little conversation. They start to head to a pub to get drinks and get Tyrion laid. And
Yeah.
we'll get into that in just a moment. But this is where a small figure that is easily lost in a crowd sees Vox Machina and pretty much glomps the group. Just runs up, gets hugs, and Ashley's back!
Ashley!
We missed you, Pike!
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yes. Pike runs up and says hello, and the party sort of apologizes for not waiting for her before they went to hell.
Yeah.
But Pike says it's okay because, she voices concern that hell would have been bad for her.
Really would have.
Because there's an optional rule that we it was in the DM's corner for last week, but because of how long we went, we sort of just skipped it. There's an optional rule for the Hells called pervasive evil. And just being on any one of the 9 Hells has sort of a twisting effect on people who are there. So you take a good character, good aligned character, and you put them in the Hells, they're gonna glow like a beacon.
Yup. Oh, I didn't Matt was also saying that he did have them roll wisdom saves, didn't he?
Yes, he did
Yeah.
for when they were
So
resting.
yeah, there was that possibility, and Vex could have very easily. Her save was very low, so she could have very easily been turned.
Could have had a change of alignment, and we didn't know if she had failed the roll.
Yep.
Because Matt would have covered it with you just have a lot of nightmares, you don't get much rest, that sort of thing, and
Yeet.
then probably told her in a whisper. But so they're still doing their reintroductions and catching up, and Percy mentions that they ate souls, and Pike's response was, "Oh, you ate souls? How did they taste?"
I love
What?
Pike. I love her so much.
Pike! Oh,
You
we
have to
ate souls.
remember,
How did it
Kiva, this
taste?
is the person. This is the person who thought it was a good idea to take torture instruments off the wall and then slit a guy's throat. Pike
Okay,
is.
okay, so, being a cleric, Pike understands, the afterlife and the transition into the afterlife. She understands that people have souls and that, protecting a soul is more important than protecting a body. Hey, we just ate souls. How did they taste? Pike is scary.
Yeah, yeah, we don't often get to see it, but Pike is. Whew,
Oh boy.
it's no wonder that her best friend is a barbarian Goliath.
Yes. So, but they continue their discussion and talk about distracting Tyrion with flirting. And so they talk with Tyrion a little bit, trying to find out what his type is. You know, Tyrion says tall, strong, pale skin.
Percy, Keyleth,
Yeah, and so they add,
Frog.
yeah, Percy, Keyleth, and then they bring up Grog. They bring up possibly Gilmore. And at this point in time, I was laughing about it because you know who knew it could have
Yeah,
gone any which way, and it because of the jokes. I mean, yes, I was laughing about it, and honestly, I felt a little guilty laughing about it. They were having fun, but I was a little guilty laughing about it because I wasn't sure if I was laughing for the right reasons.
yeah,
I mean, it was
yeah,
it was funny, and the scene did deserve laughter. I'm not saying it didn't because there was a comedy to it. I felt bad because I didn't know Tyrion's preferences. I didn't know if I was laughing because there were jokes being told. I didn't, and it's one of those things where, as someone who, you know, tries his best to be an ally, I'm not certain whether I should have been laughing or not, and I didn't have anybody at the time to bounce the question off of. But
I
that,
had,
go
yeah,
ahead, go ahead.
I had the same reaction you were because I didn't, like I said before, I don't like assuming things and I don't want to make jokes necessarily if I don't understand where they're coming from, if I don't know yet where they're coming from. So it felt inappropriate and it also felt a little bit like it could be hurtful. So
Yeah,
I know where you're coming from. I know that it's in
but
the end,
go ahead.
I think it turned out okay, but also just as a social kind of commentary, it feels a little wrong to have done it.
Now, one thing that I would like to point out, I was having these questions because I'm outside of Vox Machina.
Yeah.
That being said, I would have had no problem laughing at the comedy of the situation because
Yeah, yeah.
as I said there was comedy and so it did deserve a laugh, but for the right reasons. Had I If I were a part of Vox Machina and had gone through hell with them in both the
Yeah.
literal and figurative sense, I would have had no problem laughing at the comedy and not even given any thought to the other side of it. It's just being an outsider, I got confused on whether I was being appropriate or not. And for me, that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Because, as somebody who is an outsider, somebody who hasn't gone through the same experiences as somebody that, you know, that is LGBTQ, I need to keep that focus on, is this funny because it's comedy or am I an asshole?
Yep. Yeah.
So, but yeah, PSA, the more you know.
More you know.
Yes. But yes. So, as they're, you know, once they get into the bar, they do start. Oh, okay. I'm going to pause for just a moment. Anil Nair in the chat says that's all good, Akiva, as long as you don't try to be a fun police, and that was not my intent at all.
Yeah. No.
I wasn't. I didn't immediately jump into the chat and start, raging about people who are laughing or anything like that. That's for each individual to decide.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment that, you know, if you want to be an ally, and everybody should want to be an ally, in my opinion, because there are great people out there and so much love, and we need more love in the world. But, if you want to be an ally, keep an eye on little stuff like that. The accidental or what's the word I'm looking for? When you do stuff
Uh,
without meaning to. Um,
an accident.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
The accidental prejudices. That's all I was trying to say. Something for people to keep in mind about themselves, because you can't improve yourself if you're not watching yourself for things that you don't like. It's all fine and well to see other people doing stuff and say, "Hey, that's wrong." Just keep an eye on yourself so you're not doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's all I was meaning. But yeah, so back into the episode. Um, they get into the pub, and there are more questions going inadvertent. Thank you, John O'Brien. Inadvertent was the word I was looking for. Anyway, as I was saying, um,
Hmm.
the players were a little more focused than usual on what the NPCs looked like. What does she look like? Um, Again, going with the base assumption that because they're not certain what Tarian's type is, that they'll want to know what the options are in the room, um, and the unconscious biases that go with that.
Yeah.
Then they sit down at a table. They're being served by one of the bar wenches, and Pike suggests a contest for the affections of their server.
Oh goodness.
What the hell happened to the moral compass? What did we miss while she was back in Emon and everybody else was out out vanquishing evil?
I think Ashley is just really antsy at this point and wants to see things go down. I think she's ready to do just about anything.
It's like Pike just burst into a room and said, "I'm back, bitches!" you know?
Basically, Pike was pretty brash in this episode, but
Yes.
also, and we'll get into it later, just a complete sob fest. It was
Yes.
amazing.
And, oh, Ashley, in past Talks Machinas, Ashley had mentioned being a bit nervous about being out of practice. Ashley, this was perfect.
Yeah, no,
This really
Ashley, don't
was.
worry about it. You're
You're
amazing.
you are good to go. So the contest is that they're essentially betting Grog's alchemical jug versus Tarian's weapon rod as a reward for whoever wins the affections of the bar wench. So Grog opens up the gambit and asks if she has a needle and thread. "'Cause I'm so ripped," as he flexes
Oh,
for her. And Laura immediately pops up with, like, "Can we rate these pickup lines? Because that's a really crappy pickup line. And I don't understand how it works. I really don't. I've seen it work. I don't have the physique to even joke about using that pickup line. But I don't understand how it works regardless."
I mean, if you're like me and you like puns, it'll work
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're nice enough about it. But if Grog had done that to me, I probably would have slapped him.
Yeah. I mean, we are very much fans of puns here on Gilmore's Glorious Gossip.
Always.
We love puns. I mean, we punish ourselves quite a bit. But wah
Don't.
wah wah. So after that, Tarian tries the romantic poet tactic, which never actually works.
No.
It might work if you've been friends with somebody for a little bit, not too long of a time, but with a little while, you understand that they are poetic types, and you want to signal them in a quote unquote romantic way that you're interested, that might work. But just going into a bar and dropping you're trying the romantic poet tactic does not work. So he fails drastically.
Yep.
To which Marisha, of course, jokingly says, "Roll for restraining order." Because that's the way it comes across.
Yeah, that was it was creepy.
It really
I'm not gonna
was.
lie. Oh God.
The quote unquote nice guys out there try that tactic all the time, and I am ashamed to admit I used to be one of them.
Kiva.
I grew out of it. I learned my lesson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As long as you learn, don't do that to girls, guys.
Yeah,
That fails and it's rude.
if you think you're a nice guy and you think that's enough for someone to be romantically interested in you, you're not a nice guy. You're a fucking asshole that dresses up pretentiously. I'm going to be
Yeah,
blunt there. It needs to be
yeah,
said, repeated. Don't be the nice guy and expect something in return.
yeah. Don't do that.
Um,
Oh, I saw this comment. Kayvon was Kayvon, right?
yes, Kayvon Hilton.
Um, Pike even said that she didn't like the idea of having women being praised or
An
being a
object of
part of the
praise.
con.
Or
Yeah.
a part of the
Um,
context. Yeah.
but then gave right back into it, which I was kind of disappointed about that the woman actually didn't speak up about this a little bit more because I was like, wait, don't give into this, guys. This is a dick move to be doing to this woman.
Very true. That is something else that I wanted to talk about, and thank you, Kayvon, for bringing it up. You know, guys going out do that far too often.
Yeah.
They make women prizes, and when they do that, you're objectifying a person. They're no longer a person; they're an object in your eyes, and that's you know that's
Yeah.
douchebag right there.
Yeah, they tried to rectify it. They got a little bit into salvaging the situation, but in the beginning, it was just straight up being douchebags to this woman. I'm sorry, Grog, you're a dick. Tyrion, why did you go along with it? D never do this,
I can
please.
I can give Tyrion a pass with a warning.
Yeah,
Tyrion was in a position where he didn't understand what was going on. He's been so sheltered, he doesn't really know how to interact with other people, let alone interact romantically with other people. I will give him a pass because it's a learning situation.
that's true. Yeah,
And as, Keyleth and Vex and Pike at some points, although she was mostly quiet for all of this, as Keyleth and Pike were emphatic about, this was a lesson on what not to do.
yeah,
So, um, but they talk with Tyrion, and Grog gives the advice of just be straightforward. On the surface, that is good advice. You do want to be straightforward. You don't want to go overboard with it because as Tyrion did, because he follows up with, "I want to be on you."
mm,
I was face palming and head desking so hard, I still have a mark on my face.
hmm
Like,
yeah,
this was how to be a creep 101.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then Grog goes even worse because he's like, trying to settle or stop the contest or end the contest and still come out on top. So he, goes off. He helps the bar wench carry an order out because business is picking up. And he offers money to her simply to say that they went off and had had a little tryst in the back.
Yep.
Oh my god, the levels of douchebagginess.
Yeah, I think everybody in the chat is agreeing with us. It was bad.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I had friends. I'm going to throw quotations around that. I had friends in the army that, tried to pull something similar. It was just a group of guys. We went out. And this was where I had realized that in past I had been one of those nice guys, but I also already understood I didn't want to be a douchebag. So, they were like, "Hey, we'll bet you $50 you can't go get that girl's number."
Oh God.
And of course, not wanting to be the fun police, I went over to the girl. And I said, "Hi, my friends are being complete and total douchebags, and I apologize for ruining your evening. If you could just write 7 digits to make it look like a phone number, I would make $50. I'd split it with you if you wanted. I can buy you a drink or whatever, and you never have to see me or speak to me again."
Reasonable.
Yeah. And I approached it like a decent human being, and she told me, I've had people come up and ask me for their numbers because their friends were like that. I've never had someone be honest. Your offer of money was kind of disconcerting, but I think you're genuinely trying to be a nice guy. Here's my actual number.
Oh.
And it was her number, and we're still good friends. But I that was a realization moment for me at the level of just F boy activities that are seen as okay by society.
Yep.
And I am, I'm not going to say that there isn't that type of activity going on with females. I'm saying I don't know about it because obviously I'm a male. Yeah.
Uh, it happens a little bit. It kind of does. I don't think we bet as much as guys, and there isn't that kind of rowdiness. But yeah,
Yeah.
females will sometimes pull something like that.
If I understand it correctly, and at least I know I understand the guy's side of it, it's all about the conquest.
Yeah.
Whereas, and correct me if I'm wrong, with the girls, it's about the manipulation.
A
For
little bit.
Yeah,
It's kind of showing that you can talk your way into getting this guy to do what you want him to do.
yeah. Without having, I mean, it's in a sense, it's the same goal of conquest, but just different means of doing so.
Yeah. Guys in the chat, keep in mind I'm not an expert on this, so if
Oh yeah,
I'm
neither of us are.
yeah, if you got different opinions and uh that we might be flubbing it a little bit, let us know. Um
Yeah, this is, for all intents and purposes, just a short diversion from our main conversation amongst friends where we're discussing social views.
yeah.
Not as experts or anything like that. Just friends getting together discussing social views. But let's get back on topic. Go back into the
Yeah.
episode. Um, so obviously Grog fails at what he's attempting to do. He comes back to the table and succeeds at deceiving Tyrion about hooking up with her later, but fails against everybody else, but nobody calls him out on it. I think they're all in the mindset of, yeah, if we don't end this now, it's going to go too far.
Yeah.
Somehow, there's talk of just one more round of possibility on there.
Yep.
And Sam does a great job of flailing like a nerd that's not trying to be anything but himself.
Yeah.
And he actually, you know, he did get a little bit of tips from Keyleth and Vex. You know, instead of starting with statements, start with questions.
Yeah.
You know, ask ask her, about her likes, her dislikes, and listen. And this is common sense stuff, but as we all know, common sense is so rare it's a goddamn superpower. Pardon my language, but
It's a family show, Akiva. Get yourself together.
well, PG-13.
Yeah.
Um, so, Sam flails about and eventually asks about her hobbies during the day. What she does during the day when the bar is closed. And Matt does a wonderful job of presenting this barmaid as an actual person. And the barmaid turns it around, realizing that with his flailing, Tyrion doesn't know a damn thing.
Nope.
So she furthers the lessons and does so in a decent way. Of course, as that's going on, she hands Grog a very poorly, very quickly little bit of crochet, essentially telling him, "Yeah, go patch yourself up. Leave me alone."
Yeah, I was proud. I was so proud of Matt for doing that, and just
Yes,
Shauna's awesome.
Shauna is a badass. And again, I know that the phrase is distasteful, but it is fitting. Shauna's a MILF. Like I said, I know it's distasteful, but it
Yeah.
is fitting. Um, so, she brings up, how about you start by asking their name?
I hadn't even realized that they hadn't asked her name, and I was sitting back in my chair like, oh, they didn't even open with that.
And here's the thing. Shauna had already mentioned her daytime activities of taking care of her two children after their father has left. And, Shauna mentions opening by asking their name. And Liam brings it all back to Scanlan by saying, "What is that mother's name?" I was
Oh,
dying at that.
I don't think I was in my chair at that point.
Oh. So that little section of the conversation wraps up. And, they go back to talking about their adventure in hell with Pike. And Vex, or not, was it Vex or Keyleth?
uh,
I think it was Keyleth, actually. That mentions, they went to a torture chamber and it made, it was either Vex or Keyleth, but made
I
them
think it was
think,
Keyleth, yeah.
yeah, makes them think of Pike. You know, I'm in a certain lifestyle where that's pretty common.
Yeah.
That was a happy place for that conversation to go for my imagination. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, let's move on.
So, moving on. Um, they go back to trying to help Tyrion. and Terry reveals that he's a virgin.
Is
From
he though?
after hearing more of his story, which we'll get into very shortly, um, kind of
In it, yeah, in many senses, but I think,
in the physical sense, I don't think so.
yeah, I don't think so either. But in every other sense, yeah, he's a virgin.
Yeah, and because of him being unable to distinguish that, for all intents and purposes, he is.
Hmm.
Hence my comment in parentheses there, although we already knew.
Yeah, very
Um,
obvious.
yeah, it's for me. It's less about the physical act and more about the knowledge base, mindset, and experiences of a person.
Yep.
But that I'm a sapio, so
Yeah.
anyway, um, so Terry reveals he's a virgin, and it turns out Shauna is listening in to this conversation as they're talking. And Shauna briefly interrupts to off or to introduce or to offer to introduce Tyrion to someone. Um, because now that she understands what it is that they're doing and the fact that Tyrion has consented, because by actions and you know outright attempts, Tyrion has given a form of consent. However, speaking of consent, always remember you can remove and take back consent at any time, and then when that happens, everything stops.
Always remember, you can say no, kids.
Yes, always keep that in mind. That is always an option, and the moment you say no, if they continue, they are assaulting you.
Yep.
So she goes off to wait for her friend to arrive, and Tyrion shows a little more of his background and tells the story of his one romance with a tutor. And it was essentially broken up because his father caught them. Now, the tutor was an older male by the name of Lawrence, or Larry. Um, so, the idea that started floating around the chat, and also, you could see it on the other players' faces. Tyrion's possibly bi or gay. So maybe Gilmore would have been a good fit for him. Especially considering that Tyrion had said he wanted someone who was intelligent.
I wasn't all for that. Like, a lot of people on Tumblr were obviously for that ship even
Oh,
before
yeah.
this.
Oh, yeah.
So I wasn't necessarily all for it, but I could see it. I just don't know if it had happened or not.
Yeah, and I should mention, I'm not talking about, you know, good for a romp or anything like that. And nothing as pig-headed as that. I just meant as helping him figure out who he was.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
I took a lot of issue with a lot of people just suddenly blaring in, like, on the Tumblr live feeds and in Twitter and chat, and just
Yeah.
immediately assuming what he was. And I'm just sitting here like, we don't actually know, guys. It's still really open.
Oh,
Let it
yeah.
be.
It's, considering Tyrion's mindset, in his mind, he's still a virgin.
Yeah.
Tyrion himself doesn't know.
Yeah.
There's no way for us to know.
So, which is why I'm gonna like give it a pass about how things went down. Like, some of it was a little bit uncomfortable, but it's a learning experience, guys.
And I want to thank the cast
Yeah,
for
definitely.
the way that the whole. I mean, it was very natural the way everything progressed on this, and it was very uncomfortable. But that's the way life is, as far as how things unfold. And yes, they are uncomfortable when you are an outsider watching them. But it's a part of finding out about yourself, finding out about others. It's going to be uncomfortable. Just keep an open mind, be receptive to whatever ideas pop up, but also, you know, don't cross certain lines. Don't
Yeah.
obviously don't be an asshole. Is what it comes down to. And that was one line that, although it did get crossed, it was done in such a way that it was, as Keyleth said, it was very much a lesson of what not to do. And it was, we were seeing people learning. And that part of it was just so great.
It was brilliantly done. It's great to see things like that in media because you don't see it that often in mainstream media, and it helps a lot of people when they're struggling to know that hey, it's okay to feel this way and it's awkward. Look at how awkward it is for these characters. It's just as awkward to be a part of as it is to watch it. So don't be afraid, and it's okay to feel the way you feel.
Yeah. And John O'Brien in the chat says, I thought that Terry's father's homophobia caused pain for some people. Anil says there were some charges of homophobia thrown at Sam.
No, he handled the way Terry was
Very well.
perfectly.
Yeah. As someone who didn't know where he sat, it was done very well. And again, it does reflect on the way Tyrion was raised, where there was sort of an understood homophobia within Terry's father.
Matt
And
was even going online about it.
yeah, I Critical Role, I love you guys
Yeah.
because you're not afraid to be in a public spotlight and exploring these themes. I mean, there are so many things from the side stories and things from the uh, side stories and character interactions that just perfectly illustrate the way society works today, the mindsets of today, and so much of that can be turned into, for lack of a better term, public service announcements that we do here on Gilmore's Glorious Gossip. Or, taking the scene itself and turning it into a class on life.
Yep.
And although I wasn't able to participate in the what Critical Role means to me because I don't have a webcam yet, but I'm an emotional type. I'm already tearing up here. Thank you,
No.
Critical Role, so much for not being afraid to address these issues and then being in touch with the community to follow up on them.
And to knock back everybody who's trying to knock them down for doing those kinds of things and who don't fully understand the situation. They're there to explain to people about why they were doing certain things and how to react to these kinds of things and give clarity and support the people within the LGBTQ community and really be there for them and bring appropriate mindsets into the center or to the center of attention so people can actually learn from it and give us the proper respect that we need.
Yeah. As Anil in the chat points out, when he was growing up in India, or when they were growing up in India, I apologize, I didn't even know what LGBT meant. An article in the newspaper did an excellent article on it to educate me. And, that is wonderful that that was done. The only drawback to, mainstream media is that they can't follow up with it the way Critical Role does, and I wish they could. And I'm not knocking what the newspaper did. More media outlets need to do that. More media, the phrase "we need to normalize the LGBTQ community" is very confusing. It's true because that community is normal. Those people are real people. They are a part of our society, and I don't mean it as those people for anyone, listening or whatever that's going to jump on me.
Yeah.
I, as I said, I'm an ally. I understand that I am not a full-fledged member thereof because I have not gone through the experiences necessary to be so. However, when we say we need to normalize that community, we're not talking about trying to change them. We're not trying to talk about changing us. There's no change that's needed. What needs to happen is that we need to accept, understand, and love.
And educate.
And educate. That's the bottom line for all of it. Education is where it starts. X the gesture in chat gives a 2-part post, and I'm going to read it because it's very fitting for what we're talking about now. And thank you, X, for saying this. People need to take Sam's age into account. He's of the generation, same as X, same as myself, that suffers most from an internalized homophobia. While I'm not gay, more of my friends are than aren't, and better than 90% of them have had similar stories to Terry's. And yet, so much of today's society suffers from the mindsets of, the previous generations and all of that, and how we were taught, and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Like, growing up, there would occasionally, because I grew up in the 80s, and so you would see, news stories about how AIDS was becoming an epidemic. And they blatantly said it was amongst the gay community, giving a false sense of security for individuals who are straight. Because there wasn't that education about the entire, community out there. My parent, or my dad, showed me about being accepted, acknowledging that, and my dad had the benefit of being a nurse, so he understood that it wasn't an epidemic just for this one subsection of people. It was a problem for all of us. Even that early, he understood that. early in the AIDS emergence. Um, he taught me acceptance because when, here I was, 5, 6 years old, and, I asked him what it meant to be gay, and I asked, why they were having this problem. He didn't frame it as a, you know, a lot of people turn that into a negative on the lifestyle.
Yeah.
But my dad, who, even today, now that he's in his 60s, he still is sort of the rebellious quasi hippie. I say quasi hippie because, for his generation, you were either accepting and open and thus a hippie, or you were regimented, and it was very much a duality. You had the hippies and you had society. And they
Yep.
often didn't see eye to eye for his generation. Um, but he taught me acceptance because, he was part of the other side of society, but he understood the hippie side. He agreed with a lot of what the hippie side said, but he still joined the military. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, we're getting way off topic with this.
Yeah. It's a good discussion to
It
have.
is. It is not only that, it's an important discussion to have,
Yeah.
and one that needs to happen more often.
Very much so.
Yes, and I have a feeling this episode is going to run longer because of the sidetrack that we got.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. You guys will stick around with us, right?
Hope
Yeah.
so. We love you guys. Don't leave us.
Don't leave.
So, getting back on topic though, Terry does share a little more, or after telling about his romance where his father found out, and Larry just sort of disappeared from his life. He doesn't know if, or Terry doesn't know if Larry was exiled or killed. He has a strong suspicion that Larry is dead. Um,
I want to beat his father into a pulp and get that man into a prison. Just, I'm so mad at Terry's dad.
oh yeah, but
Get,
but Jess, this is Dungeons and Dragons. We can be vigilantes and execute our own justice.
I want to.
Like, if it comes to the complete end of the campaign and that isn't resolved, I'm going to write a fanfic myself of hunting down that asshole. Would you
Please.
would you like to assist me in writing it?
I will. I want that man. I want this Wildmount arc, this Russian mobster to go down.
Yes. But yeah, so we get that background, a little bit more background on Terry's dad, and he really is in real estate. He buys land and leases it back to people. Sometimes sells the less profitable lands, but he uses that as a means of extortion and that sort of thing, and probably ways to smuggle. If just voicing my suspicions, definitely a whole crime lord aspect behind that. So maybe we'll see another round of why can't the Clasp. We'll see another round of the Clasp coming up. Um, but at the end of that conversation, Grog offers to pay for a night at a brothel for Tyrion. And again, I had this previous image of Pike and it included her being okay with brothels. So I fully expected that when Pike started talking about the benefits of going to a brothel, as long as everyone's consenting and everyone's safe about it, why not?
Yeah, man.
And then Vex asks, "Have you gone to a brothel, Pike?" To which Pike responds, "Where do you think I go when you guys go away?"
I was clapping. I was so
Yes.
happy.
I on one hand, I was cheering, but on the other hand, I was a little flabbergasted because that's not the image of Pike I had. It I questioned myself, well, why wasn't it afterwards? Because it just makes sense. It really
Yeah,
does.
the thing about Pike is that we don't get to see her that often, so people keep, just like the cast, people keep building up this image that she's this pure and holy being. No, her best friend is a Goliath. She loves to kick people's asses. She indulges in some simple activities. She's willing to try drugs. She is not the person you think she is. I think there has been confirmation that she is like a chaotic neutral character like
Oh, yes,
Grog.
she is. She
Yeah,
totally
so
is.
it was I yeah, I completely
She
expected
is.
it from her.
Yeah, again, this is a shattering of my paradigm, not
Yeah.
anything that was done wrong. It's just being a fan. Of course, we all build our uh, our own views and our own assumptions about these fictional characters.
Yeah.
And after this, I was slapping myself like, why did you not see this? Why did you not accept this? Why did you make the those assumptions? And it was awesome and great, and I loved it.
Yep.
Um, so after that little bit, a member of the Pale Guard, the guards of Whitestone, comes in, and Shauna talks to this guard, points the guard over towards Vox Machina's table, and it turns out to be Trish the Dish.
Yes, I was happy.
And
Then I was scared.
well, yeah, but I was so happy when this happened because Tyrion showed that not only was he listening, he was trying to learn because he asked her name. And I was so
Yeah.
I felt like a proud papa at that moment.
Yeah.
um, she buys Tyrion a scotch. Tyrion asks her name. I'm Trish. What's your name? He responds TD. You know, because of course, when you're first meeting something, you want to put what you think is your best faced forward. And so Tyrion's trying to be a generally more chill and cooler individual. So TD worked.
I just realized that that could actually be an acronym for Trish the Dish.
Mm. I was taking a drink of my soda.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
The timing on that was perfect. Oh, my nose burns. I didn't even think about that.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you. Ow. Oh. Ow, my eyes are watering.
I'll
Oh.
take over if you need to recover.
No, that I'm good. I'm good. So then after that little exchange and having gotten confirmation that there is the consent and all that, Trish physically picks him up and drags him off for the night. Um, the rest of the party talks for a little bit, and they're realizing that although there was an excitement to Tyrion when he was being dragged out, um, there was a little bit of fear too. Um, and they start questioning: is he going to be okay? are we throwing him to the wolves, and he's not only in for more than he can handle, but is it going to be safe for him?
Yeah.
Um, and Percy wants to scry on him.
I was, oh gosh, yeah, this is, it was at this point when I was like, oh, Percy, Talison's bringing it all back now. He's bringing back that really awkward.
Yeah, but I mean, it's understandable
Yeah.
that they are all concerned, and if anyone is going to do something awful with the ends being something beneficial to
Yeah.
the world as a whole, the he as long as the ends are good for the world, Percy's willing to be the bad guy.
Yep.
So, and to me, that's very much the definition of an anti-hero. And that's Percy.
Yeah. I love him for it, but sometimes he can just, he
Yeah.
pushes it a lot, and I worry.
Yeah.
I'm glad Vex is there to like. I'm really glad about the conversations that happen later, but I'm very thankful that Vex is there to talk him down out of things, and that he's willing to be talked down by Vex.
Absolutely. In this particular instance, though, he isn't talked down so much. Because, Grog is all for the idea. To which some of the other members that are against the idea are like, Grog, you said you didn't want to invade Scanlan's privacy. And Grog just replies, well, yeah, I care about Scanlan. So,
Yep. Yeah.
um, but Keyless is like, I don't think you even can. Here, use the Scrying Eye. So Percy uses the Scrying Eye. But instead of he fails the first time. He tries it a second time, which of course he said, Taliesin says, go ahead and raise the DC. And Matt's like, absolutely, the DC is going to be raised for this. But he makes the second DC. So he takes it, he uses it the second time. But instead of scrying on Tarion, he focuses on Scanlan.
Sneaky.
Yes.
So sneaky.
And here's the great thing about the way this happened. I was expecting whispers at this point. We all were. Matt, you merciful, merciful, glorious bastard, you.
I was so happy that they went with this. This
Yes.
happened actually earlier in the last Friday on Eric's TBD RBG. Matt was actually on that one too.
Yes.
But they had all of the people go out of the room for their break while Taliesin and the Dungeon Master stayed. And Taliesin, oh my gosh, you guys, he's scary as a villain.
Oh, yes, he is. But Matt has everyone except for Sam and Taliesin. Because, it is
Break time.
it is dealing with, Sam's previous character. So, of course, he needs to be there to have input in case something comes up. But everybody else leaves, and they're not allowed to see what's going on the stream. So everyone but Sam and Taliesin leaves, and we get to hear what the scry is instead of it just being whispers. And I am so thankful to Matt for allowing us that insight. There's something to be said for leaving it as just a whisper and letting the players present what they've learned. But every once in a while, and I think this was a perfect time for it, every once in a while, it's great to see, exactly what would have been whispered. And
Exactly. Yep.
and it made it doubly better because Scanlan was such a fan favorite.
Yeah.
So many thanks for that, Matthew Mercer. Thank you. So what Percy sees in the scry is that Scanlan and Kaylee are playing music for some farm folk down in the tourist fields. They seem to be doing well. They have their performance smiles on. Um, Personally, I was glad to see that they didn't fall back in with Dr. Drenzel. Uh, because I think if they had gone back to Dr. Drenz, it would have been more difficult for them to come together as father and daughter.
Yeah. I was This made me happy because they weren't following into a lifestyle that necessarily would have been bad. Like you didn't see him in Oncarel getting revenge, or you didn't see Scanlan revisiting his drug issues. You saw them honestly bonding with a group of farm folk, entertaining them, doing what they do best.
And obviously getting paid for it.
Yeah, and living out a simple life.
Yeah. Um, and that's the point where they decide, it's time for us to go on break. So they break, they come back, um, and Talison's doing the whole dizziness of scrying for the first time, and that was cool. Um, and the party decides that they're going to start turning in for the night, and Vex gets up and talks to Shauna to get a sense of whether or not Trish and Tyrion will be done before the night is through. Which, of course, is an awkward conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad she apologized afterwards
Yes.
because the whole evening was just being really, really. It was a bad evening for the entirety of Vox Machina, just sitting there being privy to all of this. It kind of put them on a bad image. So I'm glad Vex cleared that up and was able to, admit all of their faults that they had that evening.
Yeah, she apologized not just for the party, but also herself.
Yeah.
And so the party decides they're going to, you know, go stay at the castle, but Pike and Grog decide to stay at the bar. So we follow the other four as they head up to the castle, and Percy and Vex fall a bit behind to talk privately. We find out, Percy admits to Vex that he scryed on Scanlan. And Percy admits that not only that, but he also feels a bit betrayed by Scanlan, and he wants the teleportation stone and the earring, the communication earring, back.
If I could, there was a lot of discussion on Tumblr about this, and somebody said it really well that Percy was acting as though he like Scanlan was an ex, and that he still cares about Scanlan.
Yes.
And he's reacting with grief and anger and knowing that Scanlan was wrong, but hating him for walking out on family. Like, how could you do that to family? That's betrayal in his eyes, and he just wants the stone and earring back because that it's something that belonged to Vox Machina, and Scanlan was basically trying to burn bridges and say no to Vox Machina.
Absolutely. I mean, the feeling I got from it is very much along those lines. It's an ex seeing, their ex living a happy life, or a presumably happy life, and then feeling a bit betrayed because how dare you? I'm still hurting inside.
Exactly.
I don't think given the chance, Percy totally would take back the items. But I don't think it's going to happen. I hope it doesn't happen, and I hope he realizes what he's going through before that opportunity arises.
Yeah. I hope Vex is there to, talk him out of it like she talked him
Yeah,
out of it tonight.
absolutely. Um, and they continue their conversation discussing how they feel about Scanlan leaving. And I was watching Sam, and he had the Sam thinking face on.
Mm.
So maybe there's still the internal debate. Do I bring Scanlan back? Do I not bring Scanlan back? How would it play out? Or would it be properly dramatic enough for me to bring Scanlan back? So
We shall see.
So then we switch over to Keyleth and Vax. Um, and of course, Liam's like, let me rewind a few minutes. Because, of course, Keyleth and Vax are talking as well. And
Drunk.
they are smashed. And it's hilariously awesome. But Keyleth and Vax talk about the future. With Vax drunkenly talking about the Raven Queen. Which I noticed a typo I made in the notes. It wasn't Vex, Akiva, it was Vax.
Yeah, it's Vax.
Vex was back talking to Percy. um, but Keyleth promises Vax that the Raven Queen is not going to take him away, or else they'll start god hunting.
Yup.
Because, they're already sort of on the path of hunting Orcus. Might as well, add Raven Queen as a notch on that particular belt.
No.
I agree.
I love her.
Yeah. But at the same time, the Raven Queen threatening to take away essentially Keyleth's soulmate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I unfortunately I would have to side with Keyleth on this one. Not necessarily the the act of taking Vax, but the timing of it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. It comes down to timing with that. But as they get closer to the castle, they turn into crying drunks talking about Vex and how the underlining meta commentary for it would be along the lines of, or at least in my mind, would be along the lines of how, they understand that there's going to be a separation coming up and they're not looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So,
And I really like how that joke persisted.
yeah. The crying drunk joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about Vex.
Well, not only that, but I think it's fitting at this point in their lives with all the shitstorms that they've had to deal with. It's rather fitting that they would all be crying drunks at this point. They spend so much of the day bottling up their emotions. They get drunk and they have an excuse to let it all out and just sit and cry because they didn't get that chance in the moment. And so, yeah.
Yep.
So, they Vax and Keyleth wind up at their room. Vex has gone off to to her, presumably her and Percy's room. Percy, however, breaks off and goes to speak with Cassandra and hands over the title documents that he had drawn up. And of course, it was awesome of Matt to reference Grog's joke title.
Your Draconic is showing.
Yes, it is. Well, we are starting to run a little long, but
Yeah,
that's okay.
so
Um, but there's a little talk about Cassandra welcoming Percy's help. A little bit of talk about how the rifle company is coming along, and you can see that there's sort of some plans going through Talison's head on how to approach that specific problem.
yep.
And then, they retire for the night, and before he goes to bed, Percy writes to Jarrett to have him hire a spy to watch Scanlan. Not intervene with anything, just to watch. And then he goes on to bed. So then we switch back to Grog and Pike, who are drunk and crying, talking about either Shauna or Trish or one of the members of Vox Machina. We're not really sure because the opening line is, and then you heard neck, and it's just so beautiful.
I was pretty sure they were talking about Vex, but
because they didn't say so specifically.
yeah,
I have to leave it open. Maybe they were talking. All I know is that they were talking about a female because they said she.
yeah,
That's all I know for certain. Um, but Pike drunkenly reveals to Grog that sometimes she talks to Scanlan, even though he's too far away to hear her. Tells him about how her day is gone and that sort of thing. And at that, on that note in the discussion, Grog passes out on the table.
it was Grog just sleep snoring or sleep snoring, but talking in his sleep while Pike
Yeah,
is just trying to have a conversation. That's all. The fact that Ashley thinks she's rusty, she's not, and the scene was the absolute epitome of letting her know that she's not rusty at all.
absolutely. And, after Grog passes out, she tries to have the conversation with Scanlan, like she usually, or like she does. And that had me sort of tearing up. That put me on a fields trip. As Kevon said, or put in the chat, he has the laughy smiley emoji followed by two crying emojis.
Yeah.
And I mean, this cast is so great at mixing laughters and tears. It's just amazing that they can do that so easily.
Sam's face throughout this entire thing, like he knew how badly he suddenly had fucked up. So
Sam Riegel, I hope you're feeling guilt. I hope
I,
so.
I hope so too.
Don't get me wrong. With everything that was going on with Tyrion, that really made me feel for that character. And actually, I no longer have the love-hate relationship with Tyrion. I have now come around. I would like to see Tyrion succeed. I'm actually on the fence when it comes to the Tyrion versus Scanlan debate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, um, it I was so a part of me was happy that the cast was getting this chance to allow their characters to express their grief.
Yeah. That they haven't had to gotten the chance to do that all with the constantly running around and trying to tie up loose ends, but
Yeah.
this was a really good moment to finally let it all sink in. Plus, with Pike being there to show her betrayal, I was really, really sad that Ashley wasn't there. And I kind of want to ask her what she was going to say had she been there
You
that
know,
might have altered events.
I am definitely going to throw that towards Talks Machina as soon as we get done here.
Yeah, same.
So, if you guys would ask as well, a little call to action, help us get this question answered on Talks Machina. If Ashley had been there, what would Pike have said when Scanlan left? But Shauna's getting ready to leave for the evening, and she leaves her shawl, putting it over Grog, showing her motherly side.
Hmm.
And then we skip to the next morning, and Grog and Pike wake up, and they see Trish rushing out the door, doing the last straps on her armor as she's late for work. And a few moments later, Tyrion comes down. And Tyrion, says to those two, "Rough night, huh?" And Pike, being the mom of the group, "Was it rough? Are you okay?" Making sure he's not injured or anything.
Yep.
And we have a very touching scene. It's brief, very, very brief, but very touching. And this is where I, switched into the full, I like Tyrion. I no longer wish for his death mode. Because Tyrion's, he's talking about how his night went with Trish. She was rough when she needed to be rough, tender when she needed to be tender, so on and so forth. And then Tyrion realizes and comes out as gay after testing the
Yeah.
waters. And it was an awesome scene.
It's a learning experience, guys, and
Yeah.
sometimes you have to go out and see what you like, and sometimes it's not for you, and it's a really good thing. Now you know. So I don't reprimand the cast or anything for doing it, and I think it was a very, very good. The way Sam handled it was excellent, and it helps a lot of people.
Indeed. And as that conversation is going, if you guys go back and watch, if you didn't see it, Matt got broken by the conversation for a moment,
Yep.
and it was so cool. But then Tyrion hangover pukes, nearly setting Grog
So
off.
Pike does too. Pike pukes.
Oh, does she puke? Okay,
Yeah.
I missed
Yeah,
that.
Pike pukes. It went Terry, then Pike saw it, and then she puked, and then Grog was like, "Oh, I'm gonna puke," and
Matt
Matt was
made
like,
him
"Make a
roll for it.
Constitution save."
Yep. And I almost needed an oxygen tank with how hard I was laughing at that.
Yeah.
I was laughing so hard that I missed Pike puking, and I watched the episode 3 times. But the party reconvenes for breakfast at the castle, and there's an awkward moment for Trish, realizing, oh, right, these were the people at the table last night. Oops.
Oops.
And there's brief discussion at the table about Vex's duties as purveyor of the Grey Hunt. And, the way it's explained, Vex initially thinks of the position as being similar to a guard.
Yeah.
But it's less of a guard position and more of a leader to a contingent of rangers in the service of Pelor and the city. Um, she'll oversee the training and that sort of thing of these rangers. Lower ranking rangers will patrol, the forest and keep watch. And when there are larger dangers that the lower ranking rangers can't handle, Vex will step in and hunt it down.
Yeah.
But to get this started, of course, there is a ceremony that Vex will have to do on her own without her friends. Um, and Vex brings up the fear that if the hunt is failed, do I lose the position? Am I sacked? And no, if the hunt has failed, she just simply has to wait until the next opportunity for the next hunt. It's very clear that Cassandra and Percy both don't know much about the specifics of the position. So they have to go talk to Keeper Yenin, who,
Yenin.
yeah, that trouble. My draconic and that name keep giving me trouble.
Keeper Yenin.
Keeper Yenin, as the local head of the Church of Pelor, should have more information. So Vex and Percy and presumably the rest of the party head off to find Yenin. They find him, and he lets Vex know that she must meditate under the sun tree, or specifically at the base of the sun tree, not necessarily under the sun tree, but at the base of the sun tree to receive a vision of whatever it is that needs to be hunted. Trophies are encouraged as a way to show of a successful hunt, but they are not required. So they head towards the sun tree, and as they do, they come across the caravan that was loading up the day before. And a guard asks if Pike is returning to Iman.
No.
To which there are a great many no's. And as you guys saw in the art before with the amazing work by Jess, thank you for that piece, by the way.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
You got the towering Goliath behind this teeny little gnome with just the no, and I will kill you if you try. It was awesome.
Thanks to Kalia for requesting that scene.
Yes. Hope things are going well with your final, Kalia. Hopefully,
many good wishes.
Yes. Hopefully next week, Kalia should be back full time as she's finishing up her boot camp. So, yay.
Yay.
But back to the episode. Vex, starts getting settled at the base of the sun tree. And eventually the party disperses to leave Vex to her meditation. She meditates throughout the day and gets nothing. Late in the afternoon, she decides to move, as Keyleth suggested, into the little quote-unquote tree house that is under the sun tree. And we get a little humorous anecdote from the carpenters that are rebuilding that particular building. But she ends up moving into the underground bunker, eventually calls Trinket out of the necklace, and sort of relaxes on him so she can be comfortable. She falls into a short vision. Maybe she fell into a micro sleep and had a little bit of a dream, but it reminded her of her time in the Feywild, and she pushes it away, pushes through it, and eventually gets a vision of a rhino-like humanoid creature with 6 eyes in a vertical pattern emerging from a lake or a pond out in the woods. She immediately rushes to Percy to get some information on the lay of the land and where she needs to go. Percy has no idea what she's facing at this point, and gives her a map of the area, which, looking at the map, she points out, or she finds, two pawns that could match. She does several investigation rolls to track down the creature, finding the correct pawn, following its footprints, and damage to the trees it did as it was jumping around, and finally tracks it down to this open glade where where the trail seems to end. And she makes a perception check, and she finds this creature hiding in a bush. She immediately draws and fires an arrow.
It's a lot of damage on that first arrow, dude.
Oh, yes, because it is a surprise attack round.
Yep.
And of course, she has, a few levels of rogue under her belt.
Sneak attack.
Yes. So she starts taking on this creature in single combat, and it gets dicey several times.
Ooh.
There was a good possibility she could have died. But she didn't.
Yeah, that last round had me on the edge of my seat.
Oh, absolutely. But fortunately, she doesn't die. She actually, brings it down. And when Matt says, "How do you want to do this?" Laura says she wants to make sure it's a non-lethal hit. So at this point,
go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
The creature was revealed to be pretty intelligent, so she was really unsure about whether or not she was supposed to kill it or not. She didn't know anything about the creature, and she knew that there was a possibility that she would be sent a vision of a creature that didn't necessarily need to be killed or anything. It was a test, so she was constantly second-guessing herself.
Yeah. Which is great for the character growth. Just absolutely great for the character growth.
Yeah.
But, she's talking with it, and she sort of feels like, although she's talking with it, and although it's an intelligent creature, it doesn't understand her. So it, starts to leave. And as it's leaping away, Vex takes the final shot and brings it down with a shot right straight through the
shoulder
blades. And there was one thing that they forgot, because she was using Fenthras. She got the killing blow. It should have started a tree growing out of this creature. But yeah, it didn't happen. So
yeah.
Vex goes up to the body and ends up taking the hand of the render as a trophy, which is quite large and weighs more than she does. But she decides to burn the rest of the body, and there's a little discussion by Matt about starting a fire in a heavily wooded area.
Yeah, so it isn't till morning until she's finally able to actually get something done.
Yeah, as the body finishes burning, the sun is starting to rise. Vex has Trinket carry the trophy back to the castle. And I got to thinking, with all the creatures she's going to be facing, and everything she's had to do in order to, get the hunt going, maybe she should write a manual of the hunt for her successor when that time comes.
Yeah.
And if they're going to be taking trophies, maybe they could start a museum of the hunt.
Yeah.
Extra revenue for the city, have a small entrance fee to cover uh, the upkeep of the trophies and the building.
That
Uh,
seems fair.
yeah, it would be a great tourist side of Whitestone too.
Yeah, definitely. This entire ordeal was something that it was very cool to see into the lore of the mountainside city.
Yeah,
So I was very, very happy that we got to see this. Somebody in chat was actually asking, um, X the Jester was asking about the moment where Percy and Vex exchanged "I love yous." So
yeah.
of course I gotta address it.
That was cute and sweet.
It's not the first time that they've said it, but
No,
I think
it's
it's
not.
like it was a little significant.
Well, yeah,
And
because honestly, this is the first time, although they have said to the group, hey, we love each other, this is the first time that they have interacted in that specific capacity as a couple in front of the party.
yeah,
So it is a significant step in their relationship. Because, all relationships, you start with the little private, I love you, get into a groove, and then there's whether organically just yeah, hey, we're together now, um, or a public announcement of hey, we're a couple, and then that next step of you know being a couple in public,
yeah,
and so it's a nice progression. I liked it.
he is.
The romantic in me was pleased.
Hmm.
So Vex comes back to the castle. Everyone's gathered for breakfast. Um, and Cassandra congratulates Vex. And as Matt's describing this, his hand gestures and his phrasing just come together in a bad way, and he mentions Cassandra's huge personality.
Yeah,
Oh, and the cast just latches onto that.
she's got a huge personality.
Yes.
It's just
I haven't seen any of the fan art yet from uh, that happened, if any, about that particular scene. I'm
none
sure there's.
exists yet. None.
I'm sure on
Uh,
the NSFW side there probably is at least one.
Probably. I haven't seen it yet. Tumblr hasn't been that forward about it yet, but
I'm
we shall
unfortunately
see.
now that I've called attention to it, it probably will happen at some point, and I should have kept my mouth shut.
It's okay.
Oh
It's
well.
okay.
Oh well, just more for that part of the community to enjoy. You're welcome. um, so, Cassandra goes to get changed because she's now got Vex's blood all over her dress.
Hmm.
And Vax takes Vex to her room to get her settled into bed for some sleep because she's been up for 24 hours now.
Yeah.
Um, but before she goes to sleep, there is a little conversation between the twins about how the living arrangements are going to change. There's talk about Vex staying in Whitestone and Vax going to Veshra, and how they have homework to do. Because in her position, Vex is considered a follower of Pelor.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, that was one of the points that I picked up. It wasn't blatantly stated, but one of the points that I picked up from the early discussion about starting the hunt, it was a ceremony focused on Pelor. So she may not be a devout follower of Pelor, but in her position, she has to acknowledge and follow the rules of said position, which includes some at least lip service homage uh, uh, to Pelor. And X the Jester. You'd think I've been drinking with how I'm slurring things right now. X is saying is correcting me in the chat. Many thinks Zephra, not Veshra. I don't know why I put Veshra in there. Zephra. Yeah, I was having to decipher my notes that I had written when I was, having gone 48 hours without sleep. So I apologize for that.
It's okay. It happens.
But
It's
yes,
a
Zephra.
long episode.
Yeah. Um, but after they have that conversation, Vax is on his way out. Vex passes out before she actually hits the pillow, and Vax glances over at Fenthris and sees the vines growing on Fenthris. Not literally growing, but the stylization growing. So
Yeah.
it looks like we're going to have an awakening of Fenthris next episode. Next
I
Vox
hope
Machina
so.
episode.
I hope so. I hope she gets new stats. I was disappointed as Laura was when Matt said, "Oh no, yours is probably fully awakened."
Yeah, but that's a DM thing. They're, mislead. Let it be a
Yeah.
surprise. It's more fun that way. But that is where the game ends. Or the episode ends. Not the game, the
Not the
episode.
game. Don't
Yeah.
get ahead of yourself.
Sorry. Whew, that's where the session ends. Um, and Matt announces that there's going to be a 1 year in game time skip. When they come back in 2 weeks, it's going to be a little over a year later.
The possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a year. They may have kids in that year.
Yeah. That's I don't know what's gonna happen. It's so up in the air. It's just like Percy and Bex might get a divorce or something. We don't know.
Yeah. Vax and Keyleth may have a falling out for all we know.
Yeah, exactly. And then what's Grog and Pike and Terry gonna do? I like to think that they're going to go back to Greyskull Keep and be the non-stealthy party
Yeah.
that tries and helps them on. Because that would be a good learning experience for Terry.
Oh, yeah. And another, a flip side of it, you know, maybe in that year, Scanlan comes back and is retired as an NPC type character, and maybe Pike and Scanlan get married. Who knows?
Whoa. Okay.
It's a year. Anything could
Yeah.
happen.
It's so up in the air, and I am so excited to see what they're going to do. And I'm almost a little bit mad that we're not going to get to see it next week because, as you said in our wrap up thoughts,
And in the announcements as well. Next episode is a one shot by Liam.
yeah, with Matt and Marisha this time.
Yes. So that's gonna so many possibilities.
All the fanfic writers have been doing this for ages and ages, and now it's finally come to fruition, and we can finally see what the heck is going to happen in a year off with Vox Machina.
Yeah. I mean, for that matter, you know, we could come back and one or more of the cast could be like, now is a good time for this particular character to retire on good terms with Vox Machina and maybe
Yeah,
pick up another character instead.
exactly.
By the same token, as it was pointed out in the chat, forgive me, I don't remember specifically who said it, um, but one of the things that, or one of the reasons why Fenthris has had an awakening Maybe Matt realized that it wasn't powerful enough for the final arc. So, even if, if the players want to bring in different characters, of course that's the player's prerogative. But, you know, they're going to want to have the existing party members of Vox Machina are going to want to finish out the adventures and get that last little send off um, into history.
Yeah, I think William is definitely going to keep Vax. He
Oh,
kind of
of
has
course,
to.
of course, because well, yeah, he does. I say of course, meaning something completely different, but
Yeah.
you know, giving it a moment's thought, this last arc is going to be triggered by him. Not necessarily him, but it's going the beginning of it is going to be centered on him with the Raven Queen. Is my prediction.
Yeah. I was thinking that too. Like, what are we going to open with? How is Matt going to open this year? Because we can predict all we want about what the cast is going to do, and some of our predictions are kind of along the lines of what they're going to be doing. But Matt is a complete mystery.
Yeah, John O'Brien in the chat says, I think if we're going to have a happy ending for everyone, Matt will need to lower the threat of the final arc for Tyrion. Not necessarily.
Yeah,
Because maybe in that year, Tyrion's going to do some training.
I hope so.
Maybe in that year, Matt will allow Sam to bring up Tyrion to be closer to the party's level. X the Jester is also pointing out Matt has flat out said that Pike is getting an arc.
I did not see that.
Well, he has said it in some past talks machinas,
Oh,
and some past Q&As. So yeah, that would be great to see as well, especially now that Ashley is back for a decent amount of time. Um, Perhaps this isn't the final arc. We're going to see Pike's arc, and then the and then the final arc. And I'm predicting that the final arc will be focused on Vax if Liam keeps him around.
yeah.
So, Wargamer Zed apparently would like to see Vox Machina Generation 2. The young rogue Kynan, Kaylee the Bard, the Angel Boys, Kior and Hunan, and Jordana, possibly. So, we'll see.
Yep.
So those are our wrap-up thoughts for this week. So, if you guys enjoyed the episode, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you click on that like button and subscribe to catch us each and every week. Send in any of your D&D questions to us using the hashtag DMs Corner over on Twitter. That's DMS Corner. If you want to submit art, you can contact us via Twitter on the official Gilmore_gossip Twitter handle. You can email it to us, gilmoresgloriousgossip@gmail.com, or contact us on Tumblr, gilmore-gossip.tumblr.com.
Oh, I said dash earlier. Sorry about that.
Oh, hyphen, dash, it's the same thing. They are the same things. So, no worries about that. Or, as a last resort, or maybe your first resort, you can always contact us directly via our Twitters. I'm at Akiva David, AKIVADAPHYDD.
I'm at Jesse LR Leaf on Twitter, or you can find me at Crit Roll Sketch on Tumblr.
We hope you enjoyed, and until next week, kick back, relax, and enjoy your games.
Have a good week, guys, and I'll see you on the internet.
May all your hits be crits, and have a wonderful day.